You can, okay, so introduce yourself, Tony, as who you are.
All right, Anthony Powell, historian, curator of the Buffalo Soldier exhibition that traveled for 18 years throughout the country.
And then Safa Samizadeh Yazd, archival producer for the Buffalo Soldier special.
And I'm Kevin Clark. I'm the agent for Tony Powell, Portraits in Black. So we're going to do screen share here so we can flip through for the love of liberty.
Murphy's Law.
Okay, how do we do that? The screen share. Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Okay. So
Okay.
we've actually flipped through, but we're now.
Well,
you want to go back up, or
Yeah, we were.
no. Listen to me first.
Okay.
The main purpose of all of this is to use images that you can use in the presentation that are going to speak to what I'm saying, maybe to what some of the others said. All of these images, whether it's this one we're looking at right now, George Washington Williams, who served in the Civil War, served in the 10th Cavalry, became a very influential man for a person with hardly any education. He wrote a book called the African American Soldier, which he wrote in the 1880s, and it is still something that people refer to this date. Okay, so you guys can go ahead. I just want to throw that in.
Okay.
So what type of images are you really looking for?
Really, so we're looking for, we have this core group of main characters, so we're looking for images of them. I mean, like Henry Flipper and Charles Young were very covered on, but like George Jordan, which I mentioned that one photo. I asked if it's true that was the only known photo of him, and you said it was, and you had said that you actually had like the glass plate negative of that, so we could get it like crystal clear, which would be amazing, because every photo I'm finding of him, they basically just crop it down to that, and it's pixelated. You can barely see his face.
Yeah, it is. That picture is taken from a group photo of his troop in the late 1880s.
And then there's some others that we haven't really found images of yet. Ed Davis.
Ed Davis, you're probably not. Ed Davis, you're probably not going to find an image of.
Okay.
Because he's pretty much lost in history. All right. And that is the thing with some of the people you guys wanted to know. I mean, Horace Bivens, a couple of images of him, but some of the other people, I've got images of the soldiers. I've got their personal recollections. I've got their personal history. I did interviews with a few of them, in the latter stages of their lives. So what you're going to see is images that depict what you're trying to do in your production. Okay. And all of these people have names. They all have history. And they can, pretty much validate all the things that I think you want to say in relationship to who these men were, how they thought, and how they behaved.
And that's
because you got.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you have to realize a lot of people have placed the soldiers in this heroic type of thing. They were just human. They were men. There were good ones. There were bad ones. There were indifferent ones. But they all had this idea of what liberty and justice meant, either for themselves or for their posterity. And so when you see the images of these people, you see the dignity, you see the honor that these men showed. And I think the old cliche, a picture is worth 1,000 words, is just very, very true.
Oh, definitely. And that's kind of what I was actually going to say is also too, which is they're still writing and they're still scripting, but really just images showing these men, you know, taking them out of that mythology and showing that these were actual people and making the story that much realer. And it's like you said, the picture is worth 1,000 words. You know, you can hear the story, but then to actually see it, it's
Yes.
it's very priceless there.
Right.
All right.
I have a question.
And then the story
Mm-hmm.
that you hear must be a true story.
Yes.
We have to get away from the mythological treating of these men
Mm-hmm.
because it takes them out of the sphere of being humans into something other than which they were not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So just a point of recollection, Tony, did you say you have any photograph of Ed Davis or there is nothing of it?
No, I don't think there's, I've got over 10,000 in my collection and I don't think there's anything of him.
With with him, we're actually, you know, like I don't know if you saw the previous iterations of Kareem's other projects, but you know, they bring on illustrators to create illustrations of people that we don't have any photos of. So probably with Ed Davis, that will be what they'll do is they'll create based on what we can find out about him, create an illustration of maybe what he, you know,
Look
so little
look
that
at
I'm not quite sure.
Look at the images that you will look at,
Mhm.
and you're going to see a plethora
Mhm.
of images of these men.
Mhm.
Ed Davis has a decent story, but
Mhm.
there are other men who I have a lot of images and information on.
Mhm.
Their stories are even better.
Right. So, and again, one other point of recollection, Tony, you have the glass plate negative of a group photo of George Jordan.
I do.
Yes.
I do. And I've already done negatives from that.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Yeah,
So
because
good.
that's definitely, because anything is better than the pixelated. You know?
Right. So that's one point. We've
Yeah.
got George Jordan in a group photograph.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm just going through here. This one I've seen, I believe at Library of Congress.
The Library of Congress, and they got it from me.
Okay.
I did an exhibition there many years ago
Mm-hmm.
of my grandfather's photography,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of the ones.
Okay. I think I even pulled that at one point. I liked the expressions on their faces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just human. I always look for that because that's really what humanizes so much of this.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these I own,
Okay.
and I know the people. Now, the two on the corners, the right corner and the left corner,
Yes.
I have in a group shot.
Uh-huh.
It was taken in maybe 1892.
Okay.
These are members of Company D, 24th Infantry. But again, and you may see that group shot as we go along,
Uh-huh.
just the people,
Mm-hmm.
their expressions speak volumes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something there's just so much you can see in their story just from that. That's one thing that draws me to so many of these.
I have the original newspaper clippings of all this stuff.
Wow. I've been trying to find an actual copy of the act. Usually those are at National Archive. I haven't been able to locate.
1866.
Yes, the 1866 Act.
When the units were formed.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that either. Only references to it.
Yeah.
But it was something I didn't have to go look for it.
Yeah.
You know, because the establishment that they are there
Mm-hmm.
is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one of the other things that most people don't understand is that Black soldiers did not just serve in Black regiments. They served in the Corps of Engineers, segregated units. They served in the artillery, segregated units. They served in the hospital corps, segregated units. Quartermaster corps, I mean, I said segregated, but I meant integrated.
Yeah.
They served alongside white soldiers, Black sergeants over white soldiers, and things like that. And that's what you're going to see here. Just like these two soldiers in the end.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just loved how you had talked about how they had access to the same quality of supplies, of, they had the same degree of training, that, that whole, I love how you dismantled that whole
mythology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just the truth. Because again, the mythology is they got the worst horses, they got the worst. It's nonsense. It was not so.
This is that is quite a shot.
That is quite a shot, is it not?
Wow.
So I'm taking notes here. Did you like that one?
I do. That is really lovely. I'm not sure because it's from before our.
No. This is taken in the late 1880s.
Oh, I'm looking at the date of. Okay, I was misreading it there.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, here we go, right there. I was reading the thing underneath it.
Okay, not a problem.
That is quite a shot.
Tony, why don't you take notes also of the things that she has?
Kevin, that's your job.
Okay.
You take the notes.
I'm taking them, but I just wanted to have a backup.
Okay.
I also have a good memory, so it's I can.
That's why I wanted to record it.
Yeah.
And that's your backup, man. Are you asking me to take notes? I'm 75, dude. What's up with that?
I got you, man. We got you covered, so keep.
But my memory is still 25.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. See, what about this one? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll go back.
Can you go back?
Yes.
The one on the right bottom.
This one here?
Yeah. You don't get too many pictures in color.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at it from a little far away. I didn't realize.
Oh, that's
Something
a great
like
picture.
that. Yeah, that is really great too.
And then there are going to be other pictures of him.
Okay.
Just like the one in the center. And you'll see other pictures of him as an older man.
Okay.
That's when he first joined the Army in the early 70s.
I like this group picture here too of the music.
The group picture is very nice. Okay. And if you look close, these are Army trumpeters. And the guy in the center, he may look white, but he is Black. He's the principal musician or the chief trumpeter. That's what you had in the cavalry. The one on the top, on the right-hand side, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. The one on the left-hand side, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient.
Wow. Yeah, I love this shot. The quality of this shot is, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we're talking about, he's not on the list of people that I've been told to look for images of, but just the quality of that.
See, but see, here is the problem that you have to address. Some of the information your writers and producers have gotten is not what's going to tell the true story. Some of the people that they go after, like Horace Bivens, is only a minutia of the story of these men. And so if by using images to show what these men were, how these men looked, then I can tell you what they thought, what they wrote. Okay, because I have their letters. I have interviews with a few of them that were still living. Okay, I just, I just want the production to be the best that it can be,
Yeah.
because I've seen so many others that just glass over all this stuff.
Yeah.
And,
I've,
it's
I've heard
okay.
the same thing. I was talking to a woman named Angela Holder just
Mhm.
yesterday. No, wait, yesterday? Yesterday or the day before. But anyway, yeah, she was saying the same thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a lovely photo
I
there
know.
too.
And there
And it's one of those,
many of them come.
yeah. And it can get a little frustrating for me because my role, I don't get to choose who we
Source.
who we focus on, or it's just I'm the person who just brings in, who gets the archival for it. So it's one of those things where I can vocalize it and I can advocate for it, but at the end of the day, it's very much of a it's really up to Stacy and Miguel.
Right. And who was Angela Holder again in relationship to the photos?
She is a descendant of one of the 24th Infantry men who was tried and executed during the.
This has to be, when you say tried and executed, you've got to be talking about the mutiny in Houston during World War One. Now, the real story is.
I know. I don't want to say tried. I hate using that word. I use it because I can't think of anything else.
Oh, I mean, what you said was fine. But the real story is they mutinied at a time of war. What they received would have went to anyone during that time of war. The excessiveness of it is because it happened in Texas. Okay. Houston, Texas. But the men mutinied. I don't care how you try to, or how they try to sugarcoat it, they mutinied. Now, yes, there were exasperating reasons for, but they mutinied. And the punishment was correct during times of war. And most Black people, they'll argue and fuss and fight, but the bottom line is, it is what it is. And if we tell the truth in the way that we are teaching people, then I think people will get it. Yeah, the conditions were bad, the treatment was bad, but they were still under oath as soldiers.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's just so, because I can't say if I were in that, what would make me snap. And it's one of those just, I understand, yeah, like they did mutiny, but it's just one of those mutinies where it's like,
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. And I can't say if I weren't in that I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people under the circumstances during that time that would have done the same thing. Okay. But at the end of the day, it was what it was. It was a mutiny. Their officers tried stopping them. They refused to listen to their officers, and they went into the town for justice. But justice has a price.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Some people in Texas will hate me, but that's that's what it is.
It's Texas. Come on.
Oh, now this deals with African Americans who served in the National Guard or militias. Not all served in all Black units. Many served in integrated units. But in my time frame, these are some of the ones that I just put up there. And many of these men, at one time or another, had served in one or in most of the Black regiments before going back to civilian life and becoming National Guardsmen.
Yeah, it's another beautiful photo.
These are marksmen. And as you can see, there are actually 4 black soldiers
Yeah, I was gonna
in
say
the group.
one there.
Well,
Is it
there's
that?
there are 3 of them at the end,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
and there's one on the front row, second from the end to the right. Well, there, right there.
Okay.
Oh,
That's a really good example of sort of integrated.
integration, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there was a reason why marksmanship was important,
Mhm.
because it added money to your pay for the year.
Mhm.
Okay. If you were a marksman, you got $1.
Mhm.
If you were an expert marksman, you got $2.
Mhm.
If you were an expert marksman in both rifle and pistol shooting, you got $4.
Mhm.
Remember, the pay was only $13.50 a month.
Mhm.
So to increase your pay, these are the things that they did. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's why most black soldiers in most units were sharpshooters, marksmen. And if you were a distinguished marksman, you got $3 a month.
Mhm.
A person who won the Congressional Medal of Honor or the Certificate of Merit only received $2 extra pay a month.
Wow.
For marksman. Wow.
Yes. So that was a way that instead of your $13, you're getting $17 or $18 a month.
Yeah.
The pay of a corporal. Okay.
Something like this would be good too, just to show that integration.
Integration, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Huh.
Yeah, another integration.
Yeah, that's
This is a group photo that Kareem also has this photo.
This is a great. I love
Of,
this.
oh, well, that's great, because again, you see the marksman, and these are a couple of marksmanship certificates for the guy on the right side in the small picture, Pasho Conley.
Uh-huh.
And I have all of the original stuff.
Yeah,
And this was the rifle team of the Missouri.
So Tony, you mentioned that Kareem has this photograph, but he has a reprint of the negative.
I don't know if he even has a reprint of the negative. And I don't even know if he still has, because I thought he sold his collection off. He may have.
We're
Yeah.
still
But
trying
that
to
one-
figure out how much he
Okay.
has and how much.
But one I have an original of it.
Yeah, this is.
And this is a crystal clear image of that original.
Yeah. It's a great image.
There's Bivens.
There's your boy.
That is
Horace Bivens.
that's the only image I've been able to find of him, and it was in a book from 1902.
Mm-hmm.
The same.
Yeah, that was that was in the book that was written by, I think, Theophilus Stewart,
Mhm.
of Black regulars in the Spanish-American War.
Mhm.
And that picture is there, and I have a real copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be one that they'd want then, because yeah, that's been one where I haven't been able to find.
And like I say about soldiers knowing who they were, Horace was a great man in his own right. He had a family here in America,
Mhm.
but Horace also had a family in the Philippines.
Mhm.
Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, the double life.
He had the double life.
Hmm.
Now, his Filipino family came to America after World War I. And I knew his daughter and his son and all of those people. I interviewed them and all of that. And they loved their dad.
Mhm.
Irregardless if he had another life, they still loved their dad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
too. This is a picture in the center of the non-commissioned officers who were the escort for the body of their colonel when the colonel died on active duty and he went
Yes.
home.
I remember. I think I
Okay,
got
and
this photo from.
I have the original copy. I have the original image
Okay,
of that. Okay,
that's good to, yeah. Good to,
and I knew all of the people. And at the top, it's not a great image,
Mhm.
but it's an image of Sergeant Major George Goldsby of the 10th Cavalry. It was a, I have a tintype of
Mhm.
that. And he had an interesting, he served during the Civil War, became a sergeant major, but eventually he would leave the army after getting into some trouble and would not be seen again, but he still lived.
What kind of
Yeah.
trouble?
Well, the trouble that black guys get into when white guys are trying to kill them. People died.
Yeah.
And was his, he left. He deserted. Yeah. Again, these are group shots.
Yeah.
Some have been bootlegged from me. Some have been used. But again, the picture speaks of the men
Yeah, these are
and who they were.
These
And I have them all.
yeah. Yeah, I love these I love these candid photos.
Yeah. And those are the best kind to get.
Yeah. It's I mean, the regiment ones are good too, but the candid ones, that's where I feel like you really see who they are.
Mhm.
And these are images of the 25th Infantry Company,
Oh, yeah.
1880s and late 70s.
Oh, this shot is.
Look at that one.
That
Yeah,
is,
that's
wow.
stunning. Yeah, it's one of my favorite.
Wow.
Look at that point of view.
Yeah.
I
Very,
know.
very nice.
Just, that one
And
is.
I have the original.
That one's stunning.
And I have the original of all of these.
Mhm. Yeah, that one is something that's really. I just love everything that there's just so much going on in there.
Mhm.
All of their faces, just where, the way they're
They
positioned.
were being captured for immortality almost there.
Yeah.
For forever.
Yeah, that is a stunning photo.
You want me to reduce the size?
Oh, yeah. There we go.
And those are images of soldiers of the 4 units, 9th Cavalry, 24th Infantry, and 9th and 24th Infantry.
Oh.
Taken in the 1880s to the mid 1890s.
And you said.
And how you.
I was gonna say, and you said that.
How you.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
How you can tell what time period the image is what the men are wearing, because the uniforms changed. In 1892, the hat that the guy on the right was wearing would become obsolete. 1892, this hat would be worn until 1902. This hat would be replaced by the 1895 hat. Yeah, and that's just one way of telling the time periods for these images. You have to know the accoutrement, the men, what they wore, what was issued to them, all of that. This picture was taken in Salt Lake, and I have the original glass plate. That's the 24th Infantry getting ready to march off to war.
Is that a partially colored? Like it looks
Yeah,
like
Yeah, it was, you know, and back during that time, it was actually, yeah, they colored it. The photographer did themselves.
is that colored or sepia?
It is that was actually kind of, it was more color because you can get glass negatives, and if you're very, very good artist at it, you can, you know, do the uniform actually as it was, and you know what the men wore.
Yeah, that's a good picture too.
But you know, it could be converted to a sepia tone. It's no problem. Yeah.
These I've seen.
These are
Yeah. Not
these are the men.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. I cut you
I
off.
was gonna say, oh, these are, I think this one I've seen somewhere or something very.
This one at the top.
Yes.
That is the 10th Cavalry at Camp Verde in Arizona. I have an original copy of it.
Okay.
But the interesting thing about it is not the soldiers lined up for inspection, but it's what's going on in the background with the civilians, the officers' wives and children. Do you see what's happening? There's people playing tennis. There's a man-made little lake that the children are in.
Yeah, I see this right here.
And if you know anything about Arizona, that was a very, very hard place to serve
Yeah.
because of the conditions, the weather, and all of that. And the other one is calling for guard mount in Montana. This is around 1893 or 94, 25th Infantry. And I have the actual original photographs of both of these.
I guess I spent 1 week stage managing a dance performance in Arizona. I definitely felt those harsh conditions. Can't imagine with these men.
Oh yeah, there was no air conditioning
Yeah.
back in the day. Okay, now these are men of the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts. This was a unit made up of Black Indians.
Interesting.
Okay, they came from originally they came during the Trail of Tears from Florida when the Seminole were evicted from their land. And the Seminole tribe, as did the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, they all had Blacks that were part of their tribes. They had intermarried, okay? And some owned Black slaves. So they were allowed to take all of their property with them. And so the Seminole settled in Texas. And some of these men went to Mexico because, you know, prior to the Civil War and all that stuff, just the trouble that was going on, they immigrated to Mexico, and that's where this unit was formed. You know, they were recruited and they came back to, you know, they came to the States. And included in this,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Included in this unit would be also Spanish, Mexicans. Okay, but the majority of them were Black Indians.
Were they?
And they were scouts.
Okay.
They were scouts for the Army because they were Black, but yet they were Indian, and they could track down anyone or any type of person. And that's what they were used for. The unit was formed in the early 1870s, and it was demobilized in 1914, and the men were transferred to other Black units that were still around.
Was there involvement?
And they're in.
From them?
Go ahead.
Was there involvement from them during, you know, what they call the Indian Wars?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in the enlistment period of an Indian scout, irregardless if you're Seminole or whatever, they had 6 months enlistments. They had to bring their own horse. Okay. So these guys would have in a career 20 or 30 enlistments because they were 6 months enlistments.
I'm wondering if that might be how we can bring in some of those is in that part of the story. Because we have,
Is that-
because we have Kyle Mays, who talks a bit about sort of the interaction between between like the regiments and Native Americans.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of scout images of Native American scouts, all original.
Yeah.
And these guys, because they were so original. The guy upper right-hand corner, his name was Pompey Factor, and he won the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Wow.
In the 1870s.
Yeah.
Was he Seminole?
He was Seminole.
Were there any other scouts from the other Native American tribes who enlisted who won the Medal of Honors?
Of course, there were several. Several Apache, several Indians from the Lakota, the Cree, all of those, unfortunately, did fight against their other tribes.
Yeah. And that's kind of something Kyle Mays talks kind of at length about.
All right, again, images of Black soldiers who weren't in the 4 Black units.
Medical corps.
This is an ordnance sergeant who won the Congressional Medal of Honor when he was serving with the 9th Cavalry. How you got more money as a soldier was being able to get into positions like him. He was a post ordnance sergeant, which means he made 2, 3 times what the typical sergeant major would make. Okay. The medical corps, the soldier sitting right to the left is African American. The one behind him is noticeably African American. But the hospital corps was always an integrated part of the service. The gentleman on the bottom is in the Signal Corps. Oh no, Corps of Engineers. I can you put that up? I think it should be on the panel.
Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, he served with the Corps of Engineers. And he wasn't the first and he wouldn't be the last.
Yeah.
Okay, but they would serve throughout the period until World War II. World War II was a time when they were totally segregated. I mean, the auxiliary arms of the Army. So prior to that time, they served along with whites, were in charge of whites. It's, just like any other soldier of that period. But that's all part of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are just nice little, shots of soldiers.
Who is this guy here, Tony?
This one here.
Second.
He is
Bottom.
he is a commissary. He is a post commissary sergeant. The one here, post commissary sergeant. Okay. And this picture was taken in the 1880s.
Yeah, the look on his face is just.
Do you have any glass plate negatives of these images?
I have crystal clear negatives of everything.
Wow.
Look at that with the red bottom here.
Yeah.
What is that?
I have the original pictures of all of these.
What is the red marking at the bottom right photograph?
That is the studio where he got the picture taken.
Wow.
Well, that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice staging. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Of course, this one's.
You saw that one. That's at Wounded Knee.
Yeah.
Pine Ridge, okay? The other two are of the 9th Cavalry. The one on the bottom is the picture with George Jordan.
That's right.
That's the picture, and I've got the original. Like, this is clear. My original is clear. Now, George Jordan not only won the Congressional Medal of Honor, but he was also a recipient of the Certificate of Merit, which was the second highest award you could receive. In 1918, the Certificate of Merit was changed to the Distinguished Service Cross. So all soldiers who had won the Certificate of Merit and were still living were able to apply and get a DSC sent to them.
Tony, could you find George Jordan in this group photograph?
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Oh wait.
Yeah, I can.
He's
He's
right
right there. That's him. That's him.
I remember the hat.
First sergeant. Yeah, because it's a combination of buffalo hats, beaver hats, and your regular campaign hat, because this was the winter campaign against the Lakota during the Wounded Knee thing. And those are 3 Congressional Medal of Honor winners. The one you saw of the escort for Colonel Hatch, this gentleman of the 9th Cavalry had won the Medal of Honor. And the 9th Cavalry, I think, won more Congressional Medals of Honor than the other 4 regiments put together.
Yeah, Grierson, I've got some imagery.
And again, you cannot tell the history without including those officers that served with them. Some were products of their generation that with time became to really respect and adore the men that they served with. Like Captain Smither of the 25th Infantry, that is Colonel Garrison of the 10th Cavalry. And you'll see more as you go on. So these men should never be left out of that history. These are more images of officers who served with the 4 Black regiments.
That's
And they're just great images.
yeah. Yeah, Grierson and Hatch. I pulled images of. Oh, this is a great photo.
I know, look at that. Oh, man.
And I have the original picture. This is the 9th Cavalry, 1889. I got the picture from, where is he at? He was a young lieutenant at the time. My eyes are just getting bad, but I think it was this guy. His son gave me all of his father's stuff, you know, and that picture was just one of them. He is Frank Armstrong. This is his, he graduated from West Point. Class of 91. He was after Charles Young, but I've got all of his things. He stayed with the 9th Cavalry until the outbreak of World War I. So 22 years, you know, with the unit. And that was the thing. Most officers served most of their careers with the regiments that they were in.
They weren't transferred around.
Not that much. You would only transfer if you were getting a promotion. If you're accepting a promotion, you're a first lieutenant, and a promotion came up in another regiment for a captain, you had the chance to take that. A lot of the men just stayed in their own regiments until positions came available. Yeah. Again, you have chaplains, and the first chaplains of the Black regiments were white, because what the chaplain's duty was, it was educating the illiterate soldiers. It had nothing to do with their religious conviction. Okay.
You talked about.
And this is pictures of 25th and 10th Cavalry officers in the mid 1890s.
Okay. So then this would be after like Grierson and Hatch and those early ones.
Had departed, had retired or died.
Yeah, I remember in the back, the officers who were at Hatch's funeral, that was 89.
And these are pictures you've probably seen. I have all of the originals.
Yeah,
And
West.
I have one of Henry O. Flipper that is lined up with the Corps cadets ready to go to supper. And he's the only one I have.
Because
Oh yeah.
I found his quote unquote class photo at University of Texas, San Antonio. And the caption below it, it said in there that they sent him, quote unquote, out on an errand while they took that photo. So it's his class photo, and of course, he's not in it.
Oh, yeah. But I do have pictures of him.
Yeah, because
with the.
Yeah, because I've been trying to get that out of West Point. I'm like sitting there going, this is the first African American actually like made it all the way. How do you not have photos of him?
West Point doesn't have it because they didn't care.
Yeah, it's just
they didn't care, but I have it
because
I did care.
I really like that was something I've been trying to, and same with Charles Young in his younger years. I found some stuff through the monument and Ohio Memory, but they're of him in his older years, not these younger ones.
Yeah, no, I have many pictures of his younger years, like this one as a cadet. He's in the back. He's a senior cadet in the back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's him right in the back there.
No, that's here, scroll. His name is John Alexander.
Oh, John Alexander. Okay.
Which one are you talking about?
No, I didn't see the title.
That's him right there.
That's him right there. Yeah. And he's also in the group of horsemen here.
Yeah. Is that?
At the front or the back, Tony?
I think he could be right in the front, but I can't see it without blowing it up. But I have him marked in some of my some of my notes. But he is there.
Yeah. That would be some of those years. I've been.
Yeah, but the one of Henry Flipper with with his classmates, that's a great one.
Especially like putting that up against that class photo with that caption. It just tells you.
Yeah. It speaks volumes of their feelings.
Yeah.
At that time.
Oh, yeah.
And Henry wasn't the first.
Yeah.
There were other cadets that were close to graduating, and for whatever the reason, got booted the last minute.
Yeah.
This is John H. Alexander here.
Yeah. So the other.
He graduated class of 87, but his career was short. He died in the mid 90s from a heart attack while he was at Wilberforce teaching military history.
Yeah.
Tony, who were the ones that didn't make it before Flipper?
Oh, Webster Smith. And there were a few others. Webster Smith had spent 5 years at West Point because they tried getting rid of him and all this stuff. Once he left the academy, he became a instructor at one of the black colleges on military history. And ironically, he died of pneumonia within 3 years.
Oh.
Yeah. So a life cut short. Yeah. Which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are the chaplains.
Yeah.
The first chaplain, Henry V. Plummer, and I have the original picture. Second chapter was Alan Allensworth. I have, you may see, I have other pictures of him younger. This is right before he retired. Theophilus Gordon Stewart. I have several original pictures of him. George Washington Preelu. I have pictures of him from the time he joined to the time he died. And William T. Anderson. And Anderson was also a medical doctor.
You guys talk about Allensworth at any point?
Not that I am aware of.
God.
I mean, also too, I'm going off of a pretty much all that they have me going off of right now is a treatment, which is essentially kind of like vague ideas. So so maybe in the script they actually do mention him, but I haven't been,
Okay.
they haven't narrowed that down yet.
Yeah. See, but these chaplains performed a great duty, not just with teaching, but each of these chaplains at their post, Sunday morning services were all attended by 300 to 400 soldiers, officers, and their families. A white chaplain had a minuscule amount. Okay, so these guys were eloquent speakers. They took a stand when it came to racism, against the soldiers. They would take a stand. This guy the plumber would be cashiered because of the stance that he took. Now he was exonerated, almost 100 years after he had died. But that is the type of men that these were.
This guy here is one of the most powerful ones I've researched for California, Allensworth.
I'll have to see if they're doing.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
They got a state park named after him.
Yeah, I'll ask because that is.
Yeah, those are stories. I mean, there's a town, Allensworth, that was named after him.
That's a story that
full of black, made up of black farmers, and they were all retired soldiers. This is an early picture of him when he was first commissioned.
I love this subject. This is wow.
Oh yeah, and this was on the back of the image.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he became famous for his ability at teaching. Soldiers, white or black, if you were illiterate, you had to go to the post schools. You did not have a choice. And so the schools operated, whenever the men were, there. If it was on campaign, the school didn't operate. But at the same time, they not only taught the enlisted men, but they taught the officers and the children of enlisted men also.
So Allensworth taught white officers, white and non-commissioned, and white students?
No. He taught the children of white enlisted men, white officers, black enlisted men, and black family members who were illiterate, the children.
Anybody who.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, anyone. See, there's only one chaplain at each post. So he was the regimental chaplain, but also the post chaplain. So if there were, and back in the old days, you may have 4 or 5 companies of white soldiers and 4 or 5 companies of black soldiers in the same post. And when he was the chaplain, he would deal with all of that, school-wise, spirituality-wise. Yeah. But something that they don't tell you about much.
Yeah.
This is the regimental band of the 25th Infantry in the 1880s. The African-American bands were some of the top bands in the nation from the end of.
Yeah. There's been some, and actually maybe I could ask you too, but if you know of any sources for this, but there's been some talk about trying to get some of that music.
What do you mean? What do you mean no sources? No sources of the, are you kidding?
I mean, like where we could find like the sheet music, basically.
No, he's got it.
Oh, you do? Oh,
he's got
great.
the sheet music.
Oh,
Sheet music.
some talk about.
I have the programs showing the music that they wrote, and I even wrote a book. Keep step to the music of the Union. The Army musician Black Army musician from the Revolutionary War to the outbreak of World War II.
Okay.
So I've got all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one thing they were talking about, since those songs, the melodies would be in public domain now.
No, no, they're not. If you don't have them, my stuff is not in the public domain. I copyrighted everything that I had over 40 years ago.
Okay.
So if it's Walter Loving's music that he wrote after the turn of the century, he wrote the national anthem for the Philippines, this black guy. All right. But I have the music and all that stuff that they wrote. Public domain, nada,
Okay.
nada. But they do exist.
Mhm.
That's the thing.
He's got a whole treatment called Keep Step to the Music.
Okay.
That
Yes. It's not a treatment. It's a book that I wrote, a history
Mhm.
of the African-American musician in the U.S. Army. You know.
Yeah.
Musicians again.
Yeah.
The only white enlisted man in a black unit was the chief musician of the unit. Black soldiers did not become chief musicians until I take that back. The 10th Cavalry had one in the mid 1890s, but typically they didn't appear until about 1908.
Mhm.
Generally, it was a white chief musician. 90% of them were German, a couple of Brits, okay, that served with those units. This guy is a German,
Mhm.
born in Bavaria, served with the unit for many, many years. This picture was taken in 1878. Yeah, but the next in line to the chief musician would be the principal musician in an infantry regiment and the chief trumpeter in a cavalry regiment, and they were always black. Okay. Again, look at these pictures. They not only played martial music, but they played the symphonic selections of the day.
Mhm.
And they were great. They were good, but they could get down and they could play the folk music that would become ragtime
Mhm.
or early jazz. These guys played it. Again, this is Schaffner,
Mhm.
another German with the 24th Infantry.
Mhm.
This picture was taken, I think, in 1890. I have the whole picture, but I just do a blue up of him.
Mhm.
9th Cavalry Band
Yeah.
at Silver Springs, New Mexico,
Mhm.
1880s.
These are fun.
This is the one that I said I had the full picture. And this was taken in Salt Lake
I see it's
at Fort Douglas, Utah.
Mhm.
And then the picture on the middle is the 9th Cavalry, Santa Fe, New Mexico. And the one on the bottom is the 9th Cavalry, the 10th Cavalry mounted. Because you have to remember, the 9th Cavalry Band, the musicians were generally mounted on horses.
Mhm.
It was only the infantry that walked.
horses on horses.
Funny here, Fort Custer, seeing as they originally wanted Custer to lead them, and he didn't want to.
Okay. No, he didn't. He was, but again, Custer was a product of his generation.
Mhm.
You must not forget that. They were products of their generation. So this was going to happen. And what happened? And what happened to Custer? The Little Big Horn.
Yeah.
And his demise.
I tell that, you know, it's difficult for me to say, because at this age, to apply what we're better about. Yeah, I constantly have to remind myself that, remind people of that, that you have to look at people as products of their time, and which is difficult.
You have to.
You want to.
Yeah.
Work with them.
Yeah. But
Yeah, but it is. And I have to always remind myself when I go through and I'm researching and I'm reading some of this crapola, but they were products of their generation.
mhm,
And some of them rose above that.
mhm,
As a matter of fact, many of them did,
Mhm.
you know, but it wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't say they would invite you to dinner. You know, it was the way it was. And Black officers, you have to understand, they could not fraternize with their Black enlisted men.
hmm,
They did not have friendships with the other officers because of racial restrictions.
mhm.
So they were generally alone by themselves. The only officer that really had access to everything was the chaplains,
Mhm.
you know, but the few officers on the line, like Flipper, Alexander,
Yeah.
Young, the life was hard,
Yeah.
you know.
You can
Yeah.
see that.
These
You
are,
see that in the images definitely of
Yeah.
Young. He's always set.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now these are pictures. Again, you cannot tell the story
Mhm.
without including the families.
Yeah.
Okay.
This-
And the families were always there. And I have all of these images. This is a great one because in the background, you can see other members of the family on this barge coming across the river to join these people. And
Mhm.
this is snow in the background, but the children and the wives were with these soldiers.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you know, when a soldier was transferred from one place to another and the wife was pregnant, I have many occasions where they gave birth on the road
Mhm.
in a hospital wagon, you know, as they were moving from one post to another.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they endured everything that their husbands endured. Yeah. And you know, again, Black soldiers married Indian women.
Yeah.
And these are pictures of some of those. The ones in the center are Seminole Negro Indian scouts
Okay.
and his wife. But the other two are Black soldiers married to Native American women.
Tony, was there any particular tribe that Black soldiers married into Native American tribes, or
No,
all of
no,
them?
wherever they were posted, a soldier is a soldier. You know, you fall in love. It could be in the Philippines. Many soldiers married Filipinas, as many soldiers married Native American women. My grandfather married a Jewish woman. You know, so it happens. We had that savoir-faire.
Maybe those are kind of blinding and. sort
Yeah,
of-
the woman on the left hand, the image on the left hand bottom. Is
Yeah.
that Native American?
She's Native American.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Very light skinned. Yeah.
Oh, she's Native American.
Yeah, shirt is.
All of these women are Native Americans.
Hmm.
But you have to remember, some of these women were Native Americans by birth and by intermixture. Remember Trail of Tears,
Mhm.
when all of the people were forced to go to the Oklahoma Territory, to Indian Territory. They brought their slaves and they brought their Black relatives with them. That's all the government allowed them to take. Yeah. So you have a lot of that, especially in the you know, the various nations.
Mhm.
And again, just pictures of soldiers, their wives. This on the top,
Yeah.
that was a Seminole Negro Indian and his family, and this is the home he lived in.
Mhm.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
But then again, you have to remember, there are some posts in the early days that white officers and their wives lived in some shacks similar to that. That would happen even after the turn of the century.
Mhm.
You would still find some posts that, whoa, they were pretty bad.
Mhm.
But these are, again, the family, the post, I mean, picnics and all of that stuff that they had.
Mhm.
More images.
This one I've seen. I think I got this one from Library of Congress, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I own the glass negative to it. The one at the top.
Like, they never specified who this woman was.
Mhm.
No, she was more than likely she's looking over at the post. Okay. And this is in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure it's in Minneapolis. Across the river was the post, and I'm having a senior moment on the name of the post. But
is what it says here.
it says what?
Fort
Fort Snelling, Minnesota. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Tony, you have to look at your own writing.
What's the quality of that image that you saw in the Library of Congress?
I don't have my hard drive with me, so I can't double check. It wasn't bad. It was
Okay.
It was good for like what we. It was a high enough resolution from what we needed.
Okay. So always remember that enlisted personnel did not have housing, not until the 1920s. And it was the purview of the post commander if they would be allowed to convert an old stable into living quarters. It wasn't until after the turn of the century that you would start seeing living quarters for married men's families in the military. And if a family was bad actors, the post commander could kick them off. And that doesn't matter if the next town was 200 miles away. Okay. A lot of things that soldiers' wives did were servant things, like the woman here.
Mm-hmm.
She was the cook and she was the maid for this officer and his wife. And that happened a lot. And they made extra money and they were allowed to stay on post. And again, you can see the shack again of the Seminole Negro family in Texas.
Yeah, Tony, you made reference to the one with the kids in the upper left-hand corner. Any more
This
kids in that
The one
photograph?
at Fort Bayard.
I mean, the right-hand corner, they were
Upper left.
upper left. These are soldiers. These are kids of soldiers of the 9th Cavalry. And this was the 4th of July. And they're getting ready for a big parade. And I have the glass plate to that too.
That's a really lovely. Wow.
Wow.
Again, soldiers' wives. Where the soldiers were, their women were.
Now, Tony, so your grandfather took these images in a studio, or I mean, how?
No. Sometimes it was in a studio type setting, but a lot of the images that he took were just everyday life of the men.
Wow.
I have all of these images that I got from the families.
Mhm.
And this is image of a funeral. And this funeral was of Emmanuel Stantz. This is at Fort Robinson. He was murdered by his own men. He was a very hard case sergeant. He had the Napoleon syndrome because he was a little guy, but he took no mess. He won the Congressional Medal of Honor, okay, during the Indian Wars. But he was a bad actor. I mean, he'd beat the men up if they couldn't get right. And, he was returning home from the town one day and a couple of his men saw him and killed him.
So that's the ultimate story of fragging, huh?
Well, it's the ultimate story, good, bad, and the indifferent. That is what it was all about. And he still got his military funeral. They tried to convict a couple of soldiers, but they couldn't convict them because there was really no proof that they did it. Yeah. But eventually they messed up and they were both dishonorably discharged, you know.
This is.
Now we're getting into the Spanish-American War period.
Yeah, this I think I got from Library of Congress, which you can find it in many places.
This one, these two you may have. This one you don't.
Which?
This one on the right, the bottom.
Yes, that one I don't know. This one, yes, this one I've
Everybody
seen
has that
too.
one.
Yeah.
That's, I have an original, but
Okay.
I have
Okay.
many of the others that they don't have.
Who is that soldier, Tony?
I don't know his name, but he was from Chattanooga,
Mhm.
Tennessee,
Summer of '98.
and he served with the 10th Cavalry. These are images of the 24th Infantry leaving Fort Douglas, heading to the train to go to Florida to be off to war. The 9th Cavalry, going to the train depot also on horseback for the Spanish-American War. And as you can see, the crowd to greet them were a mixture of black and white.
So Tony, pretty much this presentation is in chronological order. So we're going.
It is.
Okay.
It is. This is in chronological order.
Oh, that's a good one.
These are images at Tampa and at Lakeland, Florida. And I have all of the original images for all of these. 9th Cavalry and 10th Cavalry.
I look because it's so rare to get the reaction shots. The shutter speeds were still so slow that to be able to.
Oh, you'd be surprised the ingenuity of some of these photographers. And my grandfather was very good.
That one's a good one.
Mhm.
I'm being split between another show, but it's about the Civil War, and it's just nothing but posed shots.
And that's the same. Yeah. But that was the way it was. You didn't get into some of these other things until later on.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, images of black officers and black soldiers, from that time period. And most of the black officers that served as NCOs in the regular black units. And these were Black National Guardsmen who went to Cuba. Well, the 23rd Kansas went to Cuba also. And the 9th Battalion went to Cuba. And the 8th Illinois. And these are officers of the 6th Virginia National Guard of Volunteers. All black unit, all black officers. And it's ironic, all of the Southern National Guard units after the Spanish-American War by 1910, except for the state of Tennessee, were eliminated. And you wouldn't see them again until the 1960s. Again, soldiers of the 8th, of the 9th Ohio.
Wow. Look at that.
That's like that.
That is-
Wow.
Now the top photo, was that colorized?
A little sepia tone.
Yeah.
And I have the originals, and the 2 officers are black. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the 9th U.S. Volunteers.
What year was that? Okay, 1982
Yeah.
in Cuba, huh?
This was during the Spanish-American War.
Wow.
And the 9th Volunteers did go to Cuba, but the war was over and they were just garrison troops.
Look at those guys.
Yeah. That is something.
This is a battalion. Bring it down just a little bit, Kevin, where I can see the caption. Okay. Yeah, this is the 9th Volunteers again. This was taken on their return from Cuba. And the 9th Volunteers was made up of Black soldiers from Louisiana and Mississippi. And the first and second lieutenants were Black. The other officers were white. And these were U.S. volunteers who would be replaced by 2 other regiments. And they were sent to the Philippines because the thought was that since we were Africans or African Americans, we wouldn't get the sickness that you would get in the tropics. It was a silly thought, but that was what they thought. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but they came down with malaria just like everybody else.
Tony, do you have any like memoirs or diaries or anything where people can record some of their sentiments about these things?
I do.
Interesting.
From the Civil War, Indian Wars, Spanish-American War, the years after the turn of the century to World War II.
First
Diaries and letters. Yeah.
That's just,
And okay, these are great images. These are 10th Cavalry soldiers in Cuba after the Spanish-American War. They were sent back to Cuba as a garrison for Cuba. And they stayed there until half the unit was sent to the Philippines in late 1901. And the unit came back as a whole in 1902 to America. These are these are great. These are pictures in Cuba. Sergeant Conley and 2 other soldiers, but these are just nice. I knew his family. I've got all of his discharge papers, his commissions as a volunteer officer, all that stuff I have. The picture in the center is a guy named Walter Bruce Williams. He joined the 24th Infantry in the early 90s. He would become Sergeant Major of the unit in 1899, would serve as a captain during the World War I. And he was the longest soldier serving as a Sergeant Major in the Army when World War I started. And I've got all of his stuff. And a Black soldier and his Filipino wife.
Yeah, I love the depth of field and the composition of this image.
The bottom one.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
It is.
Down
It's
to
great.
he's looking at him and he's looking at her. It's just lovely.
Cinema verite.
Yeah. It's my favorite kind.
Mhm.
Or archival verite.
Now, these are the first regulars, African Americans, to arrive in the Philippines in 1899, the 24th Infantry. And I have the glass negative to this. But it is crystal clear, great image. Because you can look at the men and, see their faces.
So if you guys collect Gibbons, that would be the one setting him up.
Yeah.
Embarking.
Again, I have the glass plates for each of these. 24th Infantry, getting ready to go to the islands. And in transit is when they changed the uniforms from the from the blue to the khaki
Mm-hmm.
that they were wearing when they were lined up. And this is Sergeant Major Green of the 24th at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And this was taken of the regiment in, I think it was 1902,
Mm-hmm.
different aspects of the unit. But, you know, interesting images of these men.
Khaki
Yeah.
uniforms.
Yeah, so just looking at that.
I've never seen those. Yeah,
Yeah.
khaki uniforms. Beautiful.
Well, I've got them, have them in my collection of some of those same men. But, you know, we call the Philippine War a war. We call it the Philippine insurrection, but it wasn't an insurrection. It was Filipinos fighting for their liberty and freedom. We had promised them when we gave the Spanish the boot that we would give them their freedom. But when Spain ceded everything to us, we decided, whoa, we are like France and Britain and Germany now. We have colonies. The war lasted for 2 years, but it continued until the outbreak of World War II, different uprisings on different islands. And Black soldiers had to deal with racism because as one, so if you go to the next page, you may see the picture of the guy. Yeah, go to the next page. I think, well, this is what happened a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you rebelled, you were publicly hung, just like they used to do blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what the Filipinos were called by white soldiers was the nigger and the gookus. In Vietnam, we call them gooks. In the Philippines, they call them the gookus and the nigger. Now go to the next one. This is pictures of some soldiers of the 25th Infantry, same. But I'm hoping I put this guy in. He was a soldier that was with the 24th. There's Chaplain Allensworth and Chaplain Stewart. And I have both their uniforms. I have I have both of their commissions when they were commissioned and signed by the president, all that stuff. But for a black chaplain to become a chaplain, he had to be approved by the Senate. It wasn't until after the turn of the century that they didn't have to go through that approval process. So they were screened pretty well.
Was that because of like national security and what they could do to impact or influence Black soldiers?
Well, no, it wasn't that. They weren't that sophisticated, the government then. It was just, this is one way to choose who they wanted.
Those are the
There's
khaki
the
uniforms.
khakis.
Okay.
In San Francisco.
Oh yeah, this should be the 10th Cavalry.
Yeah.
And San Francisco was the point of embarkation
Wow.
for any place east.
Full glory.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who's that officer?
And I've got the uniforms. I have his name. I just don't remember it right now.
Is this?
But I have
is
notes
this-
on all of that stuff.
This guy looks very familiar.
I can't see where your
This one.
cursor's at. Oh, he was the first sergeant. And I'd have to review my notes to get his name.
I must have seen other images because yeah, he looks very, very.
Oh, he's from the turn of the century on. You're going to see, a lot of images of he and the others.
Yeah.
But it's a great picture.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great picture too. It is the officers of the 9th Cavalry at San Francisco before embarkation. The only officer at that time, because Charles Young was away with the 9th Ohio Volunteers still at the time. But your chaplain was Chaplain Prialu, and he's there. And the two color sergeants, well, one is the sergeant major, the other is the color sergeant of the regiment.
I was gonna say, he wasn't sent on an errand, like Flipper.
Oh,
I was gonna say he wasn't
Yeah,
sent
no.
on an errand. Like
oh,
a-
well, that began to change a little bit and you will see from the late 90s, you'd always see the black officers with their companies, or if it was a group picture, you would see them in the group picture. But I'll show you one that you'll come up with. Well, he'll be the only one on the back row.
Oops.
You went too fast.
Oh, no, I accidentally scrolled.
Oh, okay, so again, I've got all of these pictures, you know, all of the original glass negatives and stuff.
Are they a different uniform?
And I have all got the uniforms to everything.
The Ninth Cavalry were in different, darker uniforms. The top.
Well, everyone did not get the khaki uniforms right away. By the time they got to the Philippines, they would have the khaki uniforms. But this was the typical uniform that soldiers went to the Philippines in. Okay.
Look at these.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, that is.
Now, this is the company of
William Hawkins is another.
Here, look at these.
Yeah, William Hawkins is another one of our characters.
okay, well, this picture is of Company D, should be 48th United States Volunteers. And they were sent to the Philippines because it was thought that we wouldn't get, you know, Blackwater fever and all that stuff. But all of the line officers, captains, first lieutenants, second lieutenants were black. Okay. And this is Company D, a great image. And we wore the pith helmets, but we actually started wearing those helmets in the 1880s. But they were only issued to soldiers that were serving in Louisiana, Georgia, places like that. Some were given them that were in the Southwest. But during this time, all soldiers would have pith helmets if they served in any places that were hot.
Yeah.
Who's that? That was Baker. Okay.
That's Edward L. Baker. His story is very interesting. This guy was the sergeant major of the 10th Cavalry when he won the Congressional Medal of Honor. In 1897, he had been allowed to go to the French Cavalry School in Paris, and he passed with honors. His main ideal was to become an officer in the cavalry. During the Spanish-American War, he became a lieutenant first, and he became a captain. He was assigned to the 49th U.S. Volunteers. In 1901, he was serving in the Philippines with the Philippine Scouts as an officer, and he was hoping to get a commission in the regular army. But the commissions went to two individuals, John Ernest Green, who had graduated from college, was a young man, and Benjamin O. Davis Sr., who was also a college student and a young man. This guy was born of French and African parentage. He spoke eloquent French, but his education was minuscule, although his mind was very, very clear. When he didn't get the commission that he really wanted, he made the bottle his best friend. This was a guy prior to that that had an impeccable record. But while in the Philippines, after losing the hope of becoming a regular officer, he just started drowning himself in alcohol. He went back home when he retired in 1910 to Los Angeles, and within 2 years, he had died of cirrhosis of the liver.
Do you have any more?
But a lot. Of course I do. From the Indian War period. Okay. Yeah. But that's the story behind the story.
Yeah.
Medal of Honor recipient. You would think that you would get the honor of being a cavalry officer. You passed the French cavalry school with honors. I mean, he was better trained than any officer in any of the regiments he ever served with. But yet, because he looked white, he was denied. Okay. The two guys that weren't denied, Green is very, very dark complexion. You could tell that Davis was a Negro, even though his complexion was a little bit lighter than Green. But those are the complexities that these men had to go through.
I was going to ask about that. Some of these images, I don't know if it's the lighting or if it's the you know, just the but there are definitely some in these in some positions who definitely look on the lighter side, and I wasn't sure like how much of that.
No, they were black.
And
Yeah, some of these. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead.
You know, you can go ahead if you want.
I was going to say, so in Baker's case, because he was more mixed, he didn't have as much value perhaps as the other guys, young and
no, value has nothing to do with it. Okay.
Merit of
he was
education.
an older man in his late 40s or early 50s. These two were college educated and young men in their 20s. Okay. But you would think with his record, okay, Medal of Honor, okay, you know, School of Cavalry in France, but he was allowed to serve with the Philippine Scouts as an officer. But that was far from being an officer in the regular army.
Yeah.
Okay.
Benjamin Davis, he was West Point too, right?
No, that was his son.
Oh, okay.
That would be B.O. Davis Jr. would go to West Point. And that was his class was the class of 1936 when he graduated. Yeah. Again, these are officers of the 48th United States Volunteers on the bottom.
Yeah.
And the front row is for majors, staff officers, okay, which were all white. The guy on the right-hand side, the two guys on the right-hand side, yeah, that one and the next one. No, next one over.
This one?
Were two black surgeons. Those two were two black surgeons, and they were captains. All of the enlisted men, well, not enlisted, all of the officers, and you count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are 12 captains, 12 companies in a unit, first lieutenants, second lieutenants on the last row. Yeah, but they served their time in the Philippines and, really did a credible job. This guy on the top was William Hawkins. Now, I was contacted by his descendants maybe 20 years ago. And for some reason, and his descendants were Filipino because he married a Filipina in the Philippines. But his descendants thought that he was white. And when I told him, no, he was black from Kansas, he just looked white. He served with the 23rd Kansas Volunteers. Then he served with the 49th U.S. Volunteers. He stayed in the Philippines because he fell in love. But I said he was black. And they were heartbroken that he wasn't a white man. But I said, we come from light and almost white to black. So if you want the real history of him, I can show you pictures of him. But he's just a light-skinned black man. And they never talked to me again. What you gonna do? Yeah. Unfortunate. It is, because he had a great career. He ended up, I think he died in the mid 30s. He passed away in the Philippines. He never came back to America because in America sometimes it'd be hard to pass. Yeah. Again, those officers in their khaki uniforms, guarding Filipinos. And I have other images that I didn't even use that are even better. They have a group of Black soldiers in there, you know, surrounding a hanging apparatus where a Filipino insurrectionist is being hung. Yeah, and it's an irony, but you know, yeah.
The uniforms almost remind me a little bit of a British
Mhm.
military
With
uniform.
the
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, because that's who we were emulating at that time. From the 1880s, we emulated the British and the German army. Yeah. These are the doctors again. And the ones on the back are the hospital stewards, or nurses.
And this one here in the front?
The one on the end
Yeah.
and the one here are Black.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was he? Was he also a steward or a nurse or?
No. They were surgeons.
Okay.
Oh, the front
They
row.
were surgeons. The nurses are on the back row, standing.
Wow.
Yeah, these men were officers and surgeons.
Wow. Okay.
And you see a picture of a couple of the group again, you know, with the nurses in the background. Yeah. But a great image. Again, other images of the Philippines.
Yeah.
This wasn't the greatest. It was, you know, I did the best I could to, you know, make it look presentable, because it was really, when I got it, it was a real photograph, but it was really messed up pretty much. Yeah, but I did a lot of work on it and got it to where at least it's presentable. You can see most of the faces of the men.
It's difficult when you have the positive print as opposed to the negative. You can't.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this is Hawkins again. This guy is, he served in the 10th Cavalry. He was a Hamilton. I'm trying to think of his, I think his first name was William Hamilton. And these are Philippine scouts.
I don't know how much they want to do in the Philippines, but it's just such great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See now,
Oh, yeah,
this is the
postcard.
This is the turn of the new century.
Yeah.
This is President William Howard Taft. This is at Fort Lawton, Washington, 1909, 1910. But it's a great image.
That's Taft? That's not Theodore Roosevelt?
No, that's Taft.
Oh.
I know. It looked
So
like
Yeah, he
this
looks
is
just like, oh.
Yeah. No, look, see, Roosevelt wasn't that chubby.
but if they use Bivin, Bivin spans a lot of the Philippines,
Yeah.
Cuba and Philippines.
Yeah, so then they're gonna have to go into, yeah. And again, it's one of those things where because it's a treatment and because it's very not quite precise yet, it may very well be that they go into Philippines because of Bivens and it's just not quite written out yet.
Okay, but you might let them know
Yeah.
that you know someone that could stitch everything together and has done it the right way.
In a linear timeline. So
yeah, keep going, because I'd like you to see them all. That way you get a good picture of where we're at.
Yeah.
I've got the original glass plate to this. Non-commissioned staff, 10th Cavalry, 1906. But again, it's the faces that you see.
Yeah.
This is a great picture also. 25th Infantry Company. This had to have been the early 1903, 1904. And again, the uniforms they're wearing are the 5-button blouse that would continue until about 1912. And the hats are from 1895.
The collar, the white collar is different also from previous.
Well, the white collars,
Mhm.
if I had one, I would show you because I have them. They were the put-on collars. You just put them around your neck.
Kind of like Dickie, like the Dickies that.
That's right. Exactly. Because the shirts were OD at that time, olive drab,
Mhm.
or army blue.
Mhm.
So the white collar in your coat, I mean, you know, that's what they all had. That's what they wore, you know, back then. Again, images of soldiers.
I know.
9th Cavalry, 24th Infantry, 9th Cavalry, 25th Infantry. But again, look at the men, look at the faces. I've got all of the glass plates.
I love this one here at the bottom left.
Mhm. That is a great picture. Yep. He was, he served in the 9th Cavalry until I think 1909 when he retired.
What was his name?
Its last name was Monroe, but I have to go look in my notes. I should have put it there, but I didn't. Look at that.
Wow.
This is a non-commissioned staff of the 24th Infantry, Madison Barracks, New York, 1909. Look at the medals. Look at the shooting medals and all of that. I showed you the picture of Bruce Williams, Walter Bruce Williams. That is him 20 years later. Still Sergeant Major of the 24th Infantry, one of the expert riflemen of the Army and his non-commissioned staff.
He's the one in the center?
Right in the center.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah. And the guy in the right, no, that's okay. You don't have to go back. Actually, we've been going, yeah. But the guy on the left-hand side was one of the best Army shots, distinguished Army shots in the military. And he retired about 1913 also, 1910, 1913.
This photo is great. Oh, I need to stop doing it with 2 fingers. That's how I accidentally.
Oh, this is, which one is about, the center one?
Yeah.
That's at Fort Vermont, Allen Allensworth. And the picture was taken 1909, 1910, but it's a great photograph of the men. And they're wearing a combination of khaki and olive drab at that time.
Yeah.
The 25th Infantry was stationed in the Hawaiian Islands from 1912 until 1918. And this is the regiment marching through Honolulu on Washington's birthday, 1913. And I have a lot of first person narratives about that. Yeah. Again, 10th Cavalry, 9th Cavalry,
Wow.
and 24th Infantry at the top. These are more just views of the soldiers. Yeah. This guy was, oh God, come on, Tony. John R. Lynch. John R. Lynch, during Reconstruction, was a state senator from Mississippi. He would be elected to the U.S. Congress, and would be in the U.S. Congress until the early 1890s.
What state?
Mississippi.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Go back there.
Yeah, I know. It's I used 2 fingers again. There we go.
Okay. All right. This guy was a paymaster during the war, Spanish-American War. He went to Washington after the campaign was over, had an audience with William McKinley, and this was a short time before William McKinley's death. And McKinley had told me, and this is what I got from his diary, that he had a great record, and what could he do for him? He understood that Congress was out of the question at that time, 1899. It was just especially in the South. So the president offered him a regular Army commission in the Paymaster Corps because he served as a paymaster in the volunteers. And he accepted the position and would serve as the only African-American paymaster in the Army until his retirement right before World War I. And he lived until, I think he died in 1939. He was a little over 100 when he died. But he had a stellar record in Congress during that time.
Just McKinley sat around and twiddled his thumbs during Wilmington.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, great career, great individual. And almost forgotten in history. This is John Ernest Green, who was commissioned in 1901. This is Benjamin O. Davis. And I've got a much better picture than that, who was commissioned in 1901. But look at this group shot. What do you see?
And he's in the back.
Even though by a commission from the president, he was an officer and a gentleman, but because he was Black, he occupied a row unto himself. But then again, too, he was just a second lieutenant. And that's where second lieutenants sat or stood. That's just putting the reality to it. But it was the time. As he gained rank, he'd be sitting on the front row all the time, or he'd be sitting in the middle because they couldn't keep him away from his due. But he would retire in 1928 and make his home in Oakland, California. Yeah. And had a son who would graduate from West Point class of 1950, would serve in Korea, would resign his commission in the mid 50s, would go to MIT, engineering. God, wonderful, wonderful man. And I knew him, he gave me all of his dad's stuff. But he was a great engineer. God, if you would have seen his house in the Oakland Hills, it was just absolutely fabulous. His wife was.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say.
No, I was just going to say.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
Okay.
No, finish.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I gotta like when I saw Ed Davis on the list, I actually at one point went back and asked Ed Davis because of just the incredible story there.
Yeah.
Who was the sourcing person to connect those key characters to the wish list that Tony got? Was it Stacy or?
That was a wish list from Stacy.
Okay.
Yes.
But when you get the backstories to all these guys, I mean, Benjamin O. Davis had served in the Spanish-American War as an officer. He was only 18, and his commander had recommended him for a regular Army commission, but the Army felt he was too young. So he went into the 9th Cavalry as a squadron sergeant major. And 2 years later, he was commissioned as a regular Army officer, as a second lieutenant. Yeah. In his career, he would retire as a general in 1945. Yeah.
In the rank of general.
Yeah, his story travels through the timeline with O. Davis Jr.
Yeah, and that's why I actually like went back and asked, do you mean this?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised that he didn't, Davis Senior didn't make the cut.
Yeah, partially because I'm split between this and another show. I'm not privy to all of the conversations because I have to kind of divide my time between the two.
Well, Tony's trying to have you maybe advocate a little bit. If you, I mean, just with some knowledge about some of these
this is just some
people
of this is
who might have gotten left out, not by oversight, but just you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
The picture at the top are 3 black officers in the Philippines. The center guy is William Anderson, chaplain of the 10th Cavalry. The big man on the end is Walter Howard Loving, at the time a major with the Philippine Constabulary. And the one on the other side is George Thompson, who had served 30 years in the regular army, was commissioned while he was in the Philippines with the Philippine Scouts. And so this picture is in the 2 guys in civvy uniforms had been former soldiers that were working for the U.S. government in the Philippines.
Yeah.
This is one of my pictures.
That's a great one.
Of Roosevelt's visit to San Francisco in 1903.
Yes, and Young.
And the Young was, his troop was the ceremonial troop.
Roosevelt?
Yeah.
Ah, there he is.
Yeah. And in the crowd, if you look real close, you'll see a couple of black people.
A couple.
Yeah.
They weren't soldiers.
No, these are civilians. Yeah. But the black soldiers, you'll see a bunch of them. The troop coming up from the back, they're all black. They're Charles Young's troop. And this goes into the Park Service times for the 9th Cavalry, early turn of the century.
Oh, that's it.
This is my picture on Morro Rock, which I have the original glass plate to that.
This one I've seen.
This one here has been around.
Yeah. Oh, that's a photo of him I haven't seen.
Oh yeah, I have several of those of him. Plus, I have all of his uniforms.
Oh, this is a great shot of him in front of that tree.
Can you blow that up? Wow, look at that great giant redwood.
Yeah.
Who are these
Those
guys?
are members of. Go ahead.
I was going to say who the guys were in front of the redwood.
Those are soldiers. Those are soldiers of the 9th Cavalry.
In the national park.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. These were 4 soldiers who in I think it was 1909, there were some great forest fires in Washington and Idaho. And the forest fires were so bad, they had to send the army in, because this is before the Park Service, the army to battle the fires.
These guys,
and these, pardon me?
I said these guys were kind of like the precursors to the National Park Rangers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And these soldiers, these 4 soldiers were given the job of riding on the train that was evacuating women and children from the fire. And the heat was so intense, the men had to stand on the outside to keep the women in from trying to burst out to get away. And they went through this hail of fire and saved the train and saved the women. But forgotten in history.
Yeah.
This is my man, Chaplain George Washington Prialu, 9th Cavalry. And this is taken when they were in New Mexico. And the chaplains rode horses. This is the non-commissioned staff of the 10th Cavalry, Ethan Allen, Vermont. 1909. All the names are there. I knew all these people. This is the original order that made the buffalo the symbol of the 10th Cavalry.
Wow.
Because I have people, they say, oh, it goes back to that. I said, no, it wasn't until this time and this date that they became the Buffalo Regiment. In the crest was eventually used on their coat of arms.
Yeah, that'd be something to show.
Did you hear that, Tony?
But I said that'd be
Yeah,
something. To show. Yeah.
Again, images of enlisted men and officers.
Yeah.
This is a nice one. A recruiting command. One lone black recruiter. Again, it dispels the myth of everything being segregated because it just wasn't.
So who was which guy was the recruiter again? I'm sorry, I looked down.
Right.
Because those are the.
He's the only black guy there, man.
Right. And,
He's the only brother in the group.
and they were recruiting where?
I'm pretty sure this was in one of the eastern cities.
Wow. So they're recruiting
Recruiting soldiers.
non-commissioned
Yeah.
officers, huh? Just enlisted. Yeah.
No, just privates wanting to join the army.
Okay.
And the recruiters were all NCOs, generally senior NCOs. That's the picture of the four black chaplains.
Yeah.
That's a great picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love his face.
Seated. This is William Anderson. Next to him, George Washington Prelude. On the top is Oscar Waldo Scott, and Chaplain Gladden. Chaplain Scott was 25th Infantry, Gladden 24th Infantry.
So Tony, why did these guys decide to take this photograph together? They were all chaplains, but did they?
They just happened to be together at the same time, which sometimes in the military would be an odd thing for get them all together at the same time. So they took this picture, one with their hats on, and I have one with their hats off. Yeah. Again, family.
Yeah.
This was the quarters of Leslie King, the band leader of the 25th Infantry. But I like the picture on the bottom.
Yeah.
Because wherever the soldiers went on troop transports, their family went with them. And the 25th was getting ready to go to Hawaii at that time. And I could be, yeah.
Wow, look at that.
This is the 10th Cavalry in Egypt in 1909. The top picture is Vance Hunter Marchbanks with his two children. His son would become the first African-American Air Force surgeon in the space program in the early 1960s.
Well, Tony, what was their commission in Egypt? What were they? I mean,
they were passing through. They were going home. Since they were being stationed in New York, they went by way of the Suez Canal, Gibraltar, Egypt. They had to stop over in several places in Egypt, and the soldiers were given time to go out and look at the pyramids, take pictures. And they stopped in Gibraltar, where the officers had a polo game with the Brits that were there, and on to New York. Yeah. Again, pictures of enlisted men, their families, officers and their families, all of this. This is at Fort Mason, the one on the bottom.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, images of the family and so forth.
Yeah.
This is a great image.
Yeah.
This guy had served during the Civil War, had served with the 24th Infantry for most of his career. He served in all enlisted ranks, served in the band, served in the non-commissioned staff, served as an officer in Cuba during the Spanish-American War, and was commissioned as an officer in the Philippines.
Mhm.
His home was Oakland.
Mhm.
When this picture was taken, he had just returned home, and he was just about to retire from the Army.
Yeah.
Stephen Starr.
I love the kids.
Mhm.
And all of them are boys. Even the one with looks like a little dress.
I couldn't say that. I thought that might have been. Oh.
No, he's a boy. Yeah. Again,
More family.
soldiers, their wives, their family.
Yeah.
Soldier and his white wife.
Mhm.
This is Paschal Conley. He had been sergeant major of the 24th Infantry.
Mhm.
He was about 21 years old, and they had a stellar career throughout his life.
Mhm.
Again, images of soldiers, their wives,
Yeah.
children.
Like all the little kids squeezing.
Mhm.
I have 5 younger siblings. I'm no stranger to those types of photos.
And all of these are boys. And there's Prialu with his son and his 2 daughters.
Yeah.
These are the children of Sergeant Major Morrow of the 25th Infantry. Seminole Negro Indian Scouts were still around in 1914,
Mhm.
is when the unit was finally disbanded and the men were transferred to the 9th and 10th Cavalry.
Look at the dogs.
Wow. Yeah.
See now, look closely at those dogs. Where did you ever see them before? Are you old enough to know the RCA Victor dogs?
Yeah.
These are the ones that were used for the promotion. They hear their master's voice
Mhm.
on the
Mhm.
Victrola. They were owned by Leslie King,
Mhm.
chief musician of the 25th Infantry.
Is Leslie King here?
Leslie King is right there. As I say,
Which
we
one?
go from light and almost white. He's all the way to the left.
Wow, there you go. And who was Leslie King to one of the HBCUs, or did I get my guys wrong?
No, he was not Les. Les had went to the Conservatory of Music of Seattle when his regiment was stationed in the state of Washington. Graduated from there. He was a band leader before. Was an excellent leader. I have a lot of his programs, a lot of his music that they played, and again, it was classical bits that these men played. But became very famous. He would finally retire in 1935. I met him during the latter stages of his life in Los Angeles in the mid to late 50s, when he gave me his uniforms, all these pictures. I have albums that he took of soldiers, everyday life, all of that stuff, that I have. Again, band members. This is the 24th Infantry Band in 1899. And by this time, it had a few Filipino members of the band. And the band would have Filipino members throughout the band's history. This is the 10th Cavalry Band in 1905, and this is music from the 25th Infantry. And then Leslie King and the band again at Fort Lawton. Ninth Cavalry Band.
Yeah.
This was taken at Fort Russell, D.A. Russell in Wyoming, 1910. Band leader Wade Hammond, band leader Les King. Walter Howard Loving. I told you about him already, didn't I? Walter Loving would write the Philippine national anthem. His band would be the band that would replace the Marine Corps band that was used to escort the president to the White House. This is the inauguration of William Howard Taft. This is a picture of some of his band members in front of the White House in 1909.
Was he the one?
This is a
Was he the one that did your interview? He wanted to die standing up, so they beheaded him.
Yeah, in World War II.
He was the one that was beheaded by a Japanese officer. Yeah.
He's got a statue in the Nova Circle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was just a fabulous musician. He studied the original works of Wagner. He spoke several languages. And again, at the 1903 World's Fair in Kansas, the lights went out and he tied a handkerchief and his band played for 2 hours without missing a beat. The band was that good. He was that good of a conductor.
Yeah, he took that band all around the world. Did they perform for Queen Elizabeth?
No, didn't take him around the world. He took him around the Pacific. He came to the United States with the band first in 1903. The band came back to America again in 1915 for the rebirth of San Francisco. It was called the Panama Pacific Exhibition. He brought the band again to America in 1939 for the San Francisco World's Fair. It's the thing that they built the old air base out in the middle of the bay. That was where the Panama Pacific Exhibition would be held. It was a naval base after that.
Was San Francisco? I thought it was New York. That was 1939.
Oh no, San Francisco. It's a 1939 World's Fair. Yeah.
Why am I thinking?
Stan?
Am I thinking? Oh, it was New York 1935? Maybe I think I might be mixing up my years.
Okay. Yeah, but I know 39 World's Fair, San Francisco. Yeah, for Walter Howard Loving in the band.
Yeah.
And that would be his last time in America. And those are some of the medals that he had won and were given to him during his time as conductor. These are great pictures. Again, marksmanship added money. If you're a distinguished marksman, you can make a lot of dinero. And as a post ordnance sergeant, his pay was probably $70 or $80 a month, which was the pay of an officer at that time. Yeah. Sports.
Yeah. Football team.
Yeah, football team, 10th Cavalry. Basketball team, 10th Cavalry. And they played in New York. They played against the New York All Black team. And this was the team of the staff and band, non-commissioned officers and band team. Baseball teams from the early 90s, the 25th Infantry would be the most outstanding Army team for over 25 years. No one could beat them.
I'm originally from St. Louis. It's a very big
Okay.
town there.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up during the Ozzie Smith years.
Okay. So these guys were just great ball players. Great images.
Yeah.
So what I tried doing is showing all facets of
Yeah.
a soldier's life. Again, baseball was the biggest thing, biggest sport. Track and field, no one could beat them. I mean, no one. They had world records before World War I that were not repeated until the 1960s.
Wow.
These soldiers. Oh, yeah. Oscar Tush Morgan was the champion of heavyweight champion of the 25th Infantry.
Yeah.
Again, Philippines.
Yeah.
The era is the 9th Cavalry was sent back in 1915 to the Philippines, and they would remain there until 1922, when they came back to the continent. Again, Bill Davis Sr., different images, different time period. Well, the time periods of before World War One.
Yeah. I like that picture there.
Tony, the left bottom, the portrait of the guy with his arms and legs crossed.
Oh, I've got a beautiful picture of that. He's a 9th Cavalryman in the Philippines. That's a studio picture, but I have the original glass negative of it.
Wow.
Crystal clear.
He's got a lot of
Crystal clear.
character, a lot of attitude.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen a Charles Young photo very similar to this one at the bottom.
That one's everywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
This is the 9th Cavalry.
Oh, am I going? I'm sorry. There we go.
Yeah. Going into the punitive expedition into Mexico.
Yeah.
You guys touch that?
A little bit, kind of briefly, I think. They only just recently started asking for some of that archival.
Well, all they need to do is ask Ma. Ask me. I've got most of the stuff. I wrote a book called The Last Campaign, which was about the 10th Cavalry in Mexico in 1916. And that was the last hurrah for the cavalry. The cavalry, the next war after World War I, would totally disappear.
Look at these.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
The Four Amigos.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh, yeah.
Mexican expedition.
Yeah.
Wow, this guy here looks pretty 40 years.
Yeah.
Starting to get more attitude, more character.
This guy on the, you went to, can you go back to that one?
Yes.
The guy on the right side,
Mm-hmm.
I have his, not a diary, but reminiscences of the punitive expedition. He was at the Battle of Carrizal in 1916, where the 10th Cavalry was defeated. There were 2 troops of the 10th Cavalry that went up against 450 Mexican soldiers, and they had to leave the field because they were outgunned. Many soldiers were captured. Several of them were killed. This guy told the story of his fighting against the Mexicans during that time, and how he had bullet holes through his shirt, but he was an expert rifleman. He would become a bishop of, I'm trying to think, maybe it was either Episcopalian, or it could have been an African Methodist
Mhm.
church group after he left the military. And his home would be Vallejo, California,
Mhm.
you know, when he left. Yeah, John Jeter, if I'm not mistaken, his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent guy.
Yeah. Some more.
That's the regiment going into Mexico in 1916.
Mhm.
Some of the camps they were at. A soldier of the 24th who would also be in Mexico. They would be guarding the line of communications.
Mhm.
Charles Young,
Yeah, I think
he would be a lieutenant colonel in Mexico. John Pershing, and these were soldiers that were captured and released
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this
of the
image
10th
is
Cavalry.
from the National Archives.
And this is Chaplain Gladden,
Mhm.
Quartermaster Sergeant Holland in
Mhm.
Mexico, 1916. This is Holland again.
Mhm.
Chaplain Oscar Scott, who at the time was serving with the 10th Cavalry in Mexico. And I have all of the original images of these people.
This one I like. The middle one at the
I
top.
have,
Yeah.
I have the original of that, crystal clear. This was the 10th Cavalry heading to Pine Camp, New York from Vermont in 1910 for Army maneuvers.
You guys have any, we're talking about World War One, the beginning of it?
Yeah, we go basically we go through World War I into World War II, and we end with military desegregation.
Well, keep on going then.
So now we're in the World War One, pretty tough.
Yeah.
Okay, this was Emmett Scott, who was put in charge of Black recruiting and so forth.
Mhm.
These are men that were serving with the Officers Candidate School in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah, I've actually been able to pull a lot of images from National Archives for World War I, which has been good. Oh yeah.
But did you pull up personal images
No,
of
they
the
were,
people that you?
no, they were recruitment photos.
Okay, well then they probably didn't have any Black people in them.
No, there were recruitment photos of African American recruits.
That's when, yeah,
Okay.
that's the National Archives, they started to catalog a lot of the images, you know, the Pittsburgh, and a lot of Black newspapers started to publish stuff.
Well, Camp Grant, Illinois was where most of the Black draftees were trained for the 92nd Infantry Division. The 93rd Infantry Division was made up of National Guardsmen from all over the country. And they were a division that was probably, they received more honors than most of the other divisions that fought in France in World War I. And then you have Charles Young, Benjamin O. Davis, and John Green on that other slide.
Yeah,
Charles Young at the top, who was retired before the general officer commissions were given out. And he had been slated by Pershing to be one of them. But he was retired for high blood pressure. And he went back to his home in Ohio and showed that he was fit by riding a horse from Ohio to Washington, D.C. They let him back into the Army, but all the promotions had been given out. So he was placed in command of a cavalry regiment that was just on paper only, that, you know, never saw real life. Benjamin O. Davis, Sr., was serving as the second in command of the 9th Cavalry in the Philippines at the time. They wouldn't let him go to France because he, you know, he would have to be pushed up to a brigadier general. John Green was serving as a lieutenant colonel in Africa, in Liberia. He was the military attaché in Liberia, and he would stay there during the war. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great photo.
Which one?
Pull that up.
The one at the bottom in the center.
Oh, yeah. That's a National Guardsman. I think he's from Washington, D.C., but that is a great picture.
Was that a cigar in his mouth? Cigarette?
Yes, it is.
He's got a latitude. I love that. He's immortalized with a cigarette.
Oh, these are great.
And again, these are just images of training, the camps
Yeah.
that African-American soldiers went to.
Mhm. I think I've gotten this one from National Archives.
Mhm.
These are great. I have a lot of images of them in the recruitment stuff and the training, but not so much in
In theater.
action. Yeah, in the theater. So these are great.
Wow.
Again, all of these are from my personal collection.
Mhm.
This is Walter Bruce Williams, had been Sergeant Major of the 24th. He was a captain in France during the war.
Mhm.
And this is a picture. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I'll go back.
These are the men being decorated. Oh, okay. Picture of headquarters company of the 92nd Infantry Division with the lieutenant, first lieutenant, had served in the 24th prior to the war.
This one I have from National Archives as well.
That is a picture of the 8th Illinois National Guard officers. Maybe not. That is some of the men of the 92nd Infantry Division
Okay.
in France. Yeah, in France.
Mhm. I have it written in the name of the file. I just don't have the that I can check it, but yeah, it's
But I'm pretty sure it is because I've got all of the officers' names.
Is that blackjack Pershing in the top?
Mm-hmm. No,
Who is
that's just one of the commanders decorating, but there's going to be Pershing doing the same thing.
that's a French officer then, I guess, giving the black soldiers the medal, the
Mhm.
Croix de Guerre.
Yeah, because you see the French guy with him.
Mhm.
And these images at the bottom that are these autographs?
These are autographs. I have the original images.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I have all of the original images of all of these
man.
officers, all that served with the black regiments or with National Guard units.
Okay. Okay. Now, Tony, who took these images? Was this your grandfather or just collections?
No, those are just images that families of these soldiers gave me.
Yeah, look at that.
Or I bought them at auction
Mhm.
or at flea markets.
Look at that. These are definitely
Hey,
family.
those flea markets, people don't always know the value of what they're selling. It's
No, they don't.
And-
Especially black stuff has been thrown away
Tony,
because they don't understand the importance.
the guy at the top in the middle, he's got the buffalo patch.
92nd Infantry.
92nd buffalo. Yeah.
yeah,
you guys
that
talk-
is a
talk-
shot right
yeah,
there.
there you go with the buffalo patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do these,
92nd Infantry Division.
No, I don't see the buffalo patch.
okay, couldn't tell if
These,
Those aren't buffalo patch.
no, this is Corps of Engineers.
okay.
And the other is in another auxiliary group.
Mhm.
And this guy was an officer.
You know.
Lieutenant. Who was
Well,
that?
two of the guys were officers. The other guy was an enlisted man. At the top, these are two men of the 93rd who were decorated with the Coup de Grace and the DSC. This guy had served down on the bottom under the big picture in the center, had served with the 10th Cavalry,
Mhm.
had won the Certificate of Merit and was a lieutenant during the World War, served in France. Same here. but great pictures.
Is that a buffalo?
Yeah, like blow that up. Let's see that.
This one, right-hand side,
Right bottom right, bottom right. Is that a buffalo patch?
I think them.
that is a buffalo patch.
Yeah.
Same thing,
Nice.
same thing with the guy above him. The patch is the buffalo patch.
Yeah,
You can barely see it.
yeah.
Do you have the full?
Yeah.
Do you have the full shot of that one? The upper right-hand corner is cropped, but you have the full.
What I have is the original picture that his family gave me, and it's cropped like that.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that is
Okay.
just turned so you can't.
Yeah, you see it on his hat.
Yeah. Oh, right there. Yeah.
Oh my God. Is that the same guy that go back? Is that the
No.
same?
It's a different guy.
Uh-huh.
It's a different guy, Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But that buffalo patch is very distinguished. World War
Yeah.
One. Because everybody keeps talking about the Buffaloes 92nd, 93rd for World War II, but
Mhm.
nobody talks about World War One.
Nice.
That's Persian, reviewing African American troops. And I have the original images to all of these.
Yeah.
And now we start going, the war is ending and going home.
Yeah. Yeah. These that one I've gotten from National Archives.
Yeah, that's the 369th on parade in New York
Yeah.
in 1919.
Yeah, same with, this
8th Illinois Infantry.
one.
Do you have any shots of the Hellfighters?
These are the 8th Illinois Hellfighters.
So these are okay.
They were in the 93rd. They were in the 93rd Infantry Division. The patch was the blue helmet of the French, because when they fought with the French, they didn't have American equipment. They had French rifles, helmets, all of the accoutrements. The only American thing they had was their uniform on. This was a draft unit in the 93rd Infantry Division that was probably one of the most decorated units during the war. And it was officered by all white officers from the Carolinas. Again, a member of the 8th Illinois on the right-hand side, upper top, 369th Infantry on the right, 372nd Band in France.
Yeah.
And the band leader was Elbert Williams, who also conducted the band at Tuskegee while he was a soldier with the 10th Cavalry. And he had retired in 1916 and came back into the Army when the war started.
I like this shot here, this one bottom.
Is he yawning? What? They're singing.
They're singing, yeah.
Singing.
Bottom right.
They're on shipboard.
Do you have that photograph uncropped, or is that cropped?
I do have, no, I have it uncropped. I cropped it for my little deal here.
That shot.
The bottom middle shot. Do you have that uncropped?
I have that uncropped also.
That's
This is after the war, soldiers homebound. Then I did a little bit on music in France, jazz. Yeah, James Reese, Europe. Noble Sissel. And I've got all of these original pictures.
Yeah. This one I've gotten from the archives also.
This one on the bottom.
Yeah, with them on the ship.
Yeah. Okay, that is an archive picture from there. This is the first Army band made up of all Black musicians I own the original to this also.
Wow. Lots of these
Yeah, National Archives.
archives.
Yeah, troops going home, getting ready, boarding ship, all of that.
Yeah, I just love the looks on their faces, like especially
Mhm.
this one.
Back home,
Yeah.
war is over. This is these guys lived in this soldier lived in Monrovia.
Which guy?
The center picture on the top,
Okay.
he and his wife. This was the expert rifle in the 24th Infantry. He retired before the war, he and his wife, and they made North Pasadena their home. The post-war years,
Mhm.
and most of the soldiers were still either in the Philippines
Mhm.
or on the border, on the Mexican border. Just to show that black units had Filipinos
Mhm.
from the early turn of the century until the end of World War II.
Yeah.
You guys touched on that topic about mixed race people in the timeline?
I don't know how much they go into it, but I can't imagine you can tell the story without going into that.
Well, I know that you can't advocate for much without jumping into lanes, but that's something you
Yeah.
should bring up because that's a big did you know
Yeah.
fact. A lot of folks, who think the Buffalo Soldiers are just segmented for African Americans,
Yeah.
just will have blown their minds when they
Yeah.
realize that.
Oh yeah. And these guys were NCOs, top soldiers in the unit, been in the unit for years.
Mhm. Is it possible for you to get this presentation so I can
Yeah.
I can circle things, I can make notes, I can send it to Stacy?
I'll send it to you. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like that would be an easy, like one of the easier ways
It's
to
your
say.
worksheet. This is your
Yeah,
worksheet.
to basically say, look at all this stuff. Are we covered? Because here's all the material. Right?
And I have much, much more.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And so I was going to ask you, this rifle, do you want to rifle through the rest of them? I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Because what I want
This is all in between years. Beale Davis with his family. Bands were still very popular. The 10th Cavalry Band in Hollywood in the early 20s, parading through Texas. And I've got many articles and so forth and all of that stuff. And you're getting into the 30s now.
Yeah.
I knew all of these people. All are gone now.
So O. Davis Sr., O. Davis Jr.
Wow.
Yeah, this is senior on the top, junior as a cadet.
That linkage has to be made.
That's just, yeah.
I mean, without that, and again, this is him at West Point.
Yeah.
Being able
Him
to,
at West Point.
yeah, being able to.
And I also have the invitation of all of the graduates of the class of 36, and Beale Davis is there.
Oh, there's.
And this is
Yeah.
pre-World War II, where the soldiers are at a 4th of July parade.
Tony, how many colorized ones do you think you have? Like the one left?
I don't have a lot of, no, most of them would be sepia tone. You don't get into colorized stuff until World War II.
What is that treatment? What is that technique here? Because she mentioned color in this, not sepia.
There's a technique how you can color the glass plate and make images of it, and that has been done. Back in the old days, it was very expensive. Okay, but it was done. Yeah. And again, they were still training for trench warfare. which the French showed us that that wasn't the way to go after the Germans just went around it. I think that was called the Maginot Line.
My brother was based in Fort Benning for a little while.
Fort Benning was the infantry school,
Mhm.
and the 24th Infantry was stationed there from 1922 until late 1941. They were the first Black unit sent to the Pacific.
Yeah, my brother started out as an infantryman. He ended up becoming a medic for the 101st, but when he was in infantry,
Okay.
yeah, he was at Benning.
Again, pictures, pre-World War World War II. Pershing
Mhm.
inspecting the soldiers of the 10th Cavalry in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Soldier at West Point,
Mhm.
color picture. The one of the machine gun troop of the 10th Cavalry at West Point, the
Yeah.
1930s.
You've probably seen this one, but so you're on the right. I mean, do you have the glass plate negative? This the bottom one, Tony?
I do have that.
Because
The one on the bottom, right?
yeah, because that's
Yeah,
the
that's the
quality shot right there.
You know, and honestly, that would be because I have images of the cavalries at West Point, but National Archives, their copy that their high res copy isn't high res enough for the screen. So something like that would be.
That is a money shot,
Yeah.
for Pershing and those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, she's.
Yeah, they don't have it in a high enough.
That's him in all his glory right
Yeah.
there with that shot.
now that is at Fort Leavenworth.
Mhm. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
it is.
Inspecting.
Okay.
Okay, because you have to remember the 10th Cavalry was broken up.
Mhm.
You had soldiers at Fort Leavenworth. A squadron went to take over the colored cavalry detachment at West Point, and the machine gun troop was sent to Fort Myer, Virginia,
Mhm.
as the ceremonial troop at Fort Myer.
Okay. It's still a great shot. Oh no, that's the.
And this is a poem that I used, that I quoted.
Mhm. Mhm. Was this the one that you read from during the interview?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And that poem was written by
Sergeant Major.
oh God.
John Henry
Yeah,
Allen.
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
There we go.
Lily White. Lily White was his nickname. And I think that's it.
That is. So Tony, here's the question I have. Why did you create this particular slide presentation that turned into the book called For the Love of Liberty? What's your
Well, I did this as a teaching tool, okay, for schools, high schools and stuff like that, where you can play it and you can talk about it. The love of liberty is in much more detail. It covers the good, the bad, and all of that. This just gives you an overview of the time, and the pictures speak thousands of words, okay? Showing people that the idea that most people have that Blacks only served in 4 Black regiments was erroneous, because they indeed served in white units. During the period of the post-Civil War through the outbreak of World War II. And to see images of these guys says, oh, I didn't know that. A Black guy in the Corps of Engineers? Of course, they were there. And I'm not suggesting that there were thousands, but they were there. And it needs to be acknowledged that they were there. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the family and all of that, the troopship, the mothers and fathers and all that stuff were on that boat together.
So Tony, I'm going to fast forward here way ahead of any steps, but let's say that I'm going to give Safa the PowerPoint as a worksheet so that she can kind of just go through the 173 slides, maybe circle some things.
As long as we understand
Oh yeah, nothing's going to
that
be without, nothing.
I'm, yeah,
We've already talked about.
okay, I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay.
Okay, but as long as we have an understanding, ordinarily I'd get it in writing, but
Right, so
this is good. I trust you.
This is the worksheet. So let's say, you know, she likes some of the images in those slides, and she says, hey, let's go to the next level. What I think she mentioned, because she lives up in the Bay Area.
Oh, well, my family's up there.
Yeah, but she could come there. Let's say that we wanted to transfer the images or the negatives that are uncropped in the highest resolution. She then could provide the mechanism to get them from you to the production.
Basically,
Up in San Jose.
basically I would make arrangements with a nearby shop to scan them. We would pay for the
Okay,
scan.
I have scans 300 resolution for everything.
300,
DPI.
okay.
What did you?
No, you can make a 6 feet by 6 feet and not lose anything. I've did all of this over the years with the new technology.
Okay.
I have everything already ready to go.
So you used Adobe?
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm just asking. So, you know, again, but she'd like to take the next step from looking at the PowerPoint worksheet to come up there and kind of look at the transfer. I mean, it can be done electronically if he has it in file format.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, he can just send them over.
Yeah. So
I
that
wouldn't
way,
even have to go up
right,
there. I was
so-
just kind of offering that as like
yeah,
a,
yeah.
No,
I didn't-
No, but this is
in the care of like a PA.
Yeah.
You know,
right. So it's all can be done electronically.
yeah, because I have all of that stuff that I just did for the last few years, digitizing my collection.
So all the uncropped, digitized
yeah, we can.
images that you'd see in the worksheet in the
Okay.
present PowerPoint is what we could do. You know, again, in a perfect world, if you guys say, oh yeah, this is stuff we want. I forwarded Safa the agreement sheet, the user agreement sheet. So they have that ahead of time.
So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through it, get it approved, but on our end. And then I'm also gonna look at it against our materials release, and I'm gonna see if they mesh or if maybe some adjustments need to be made, and then go from there with that.
Yeah. See, because you'll notice in mine, when you use my images, it's just for a one-time deal. And I do not give up the rights to let other people use it. Okay.
Yeah, so our release, so it's in no point.
See, when I signed a release to be on the air with you, I always have problems when I see the words in perpetuity. I mean, forever.
Okay, so I had to explain this recently to other people. The perpetuity is to basically, because this goes on a streaming platform, it's to basically ensure that we're covered for however long the documentary is like on streaming. Yeah, that's what the perpetuity means. What I did,
and what we will probably have to do, and I'll leave that up to you, Kevin, is to add a clause. If this is, because when I did all this stuff, the streaming stuff didn't exist. Okay. So we may have to add a clause, because I think I have a 1-year clause on mine. Okay. That would cover me if it's used for 10 or 15 years. Okay. So, take a look at that.
Okay.
And see if I need to change something. And Kevin, you should be able to look at that first.
Okay.
Because when I did it on my own, going through the notes and libraries of what was standard 20 some odd years ago.
Right.
Okay.
So in the realm of streaming, is there a best practices case where we could look at what you guys would use, the rights for, something that'd be a term that,
It is possible, 10 years. I have to get network approval for it.
Okay.
I know they really hate it.
yeah,
Yeah, but
There will-
my whole idea is just very simple. My poor wife calls me a hoe. You know why? Because I'm so nice to people. I've given my stuff away. I've let people use me. I'm too damn old to do that anymore. So I don't mind working and helping and doing what I can, because what I have is superior to what you'll find in the National Archives. And what I have, the research has been done for 50 years by me, with interviews of these old people and all of that. So,
Yeah.
look at it and see what we could work out. And I'm a reasonable person, but I won't be unreasonable either.
Let me tell you, I will talk to legal and rights and clearances on my side. I'll see, can we bring it back to 10, let me see what I can do on my end for that. And try to get some type of approval there.
it's all to be negotiated.
Yeah. But again, let me see how far I can get on that side. I do know that with the other people, we managed to get perpetuity okay with them, because we added in clarification in there that material is only to be used for that
The streaming
documentary.
platform.
Yeah, and for that documentary and nothing else. So it covers all media, because it covers.
Okay. And that's what my user agreement has, the same clause.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So yeah.
But
so
again, there was no streaming back in the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where they get, because that's
Yeah,
where it gets.
it'd almost be like trying to extend it to all platforms, known and unknown. Because
Exactly.
at some point, who knows what's going to be after streaming.
Exactly, and we want to be able to have this documentary have another life on maybe some type of platform that we haven't
Even gotten there yet.
Yeah, and so that's why they do. But I can talk to them, and then we can work. I'll look at the user agreement. I'll see what we can kind of, mesh together and go from there.
Okay. And, that's fine. I mean, that's great with me. And I'm going to point my finger at him again. That's his job, to make sure it's done in the modern tense of where we're at in the field today.
Okay. And
Okay.
then I guess the other thing too that they started kind of talking about is trying to figure out budgetary. I don't have a very big budget. I'm not quite sure how much you are expecting, how much you've gotten paid for in the past. I kind of want to try to start, because I have a good feeling that quite a few of these images will be from you. So I just kind of want to get a ballpark. And
Right. I will say that in the user agreement that I sent you, there's a price per image. But Tony, if let's say they wanted a bundle, could we negotiate, per, let's say they want a bundle for this particular project, for that particular streaming, for that term that we agreed that they would come up with, if they had a budget that said, didn't allow them to do everything that they wanted to do, could we negotiate something if it was a bundle package?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll take a look at that and I'll see.
Yeah, but I think it's Tony, and I'm only speaking, well, my, kind of promotion thing is that he wants fair market value, but at the same time, he wants to be helping the total project become everything it should be and not leave anything on the table.
And I'm one of those people that I hate dickering around with that. I feel like, people should get what they feel like is fair. I just have to make sure it works.
Right.
This is a much smaller budget than I'm used to working with. So.
Right. Now, we definitely want to make sure that, whatever, if you guys don't have a caviar budget, you realize that this is caviar that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
This is not the stuff you're going to find, anywhere else,
Exactly,
anytime, or, so it's kind of one of those,
And
that's the
then-
spirit of what he's
Yeah,
trying to
and it
offer.
might be something where I have to go back and I can make an argument and try to get more money in the budget. I think when they planned out this budget, they were thinking, oh, look at the time period. Oh, we'll just get a bunch of stuff from National Archives.
They couldn't have accounted for this.
Yeah,
There's no way they
yeah,
could.
they did. It's a bunch of production people who make up the budget who don't know anything about the material. And so I think they did it with this assumption that most of it would
Yeah.
be,
Yeah, and really, again, the value of this, if you looked at how this was articulated for agreements by museums,
Mhm.
you're looking at this as a digital broadcast museum presentation.
Mhm.
That's really what you're looking at.
So let me go, I'll look at it, I'll see what can work with it and,
Yeah.
I'll see let me see what I can do on my end with all of this.
Okay.
Because I really, really want to make this work.
That's only sounds reasonable to me.
Tony, any questions, suggestions, comment before we break?
No. I'm good. I trust you. This is what you do. All this other stuff is what I do. And I'm good at what I do. You're good at what you do.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Tony.
All right.
All
All right, man. Goodbye.
All right
It
now.
was a pleasure seeing you again.
Good to see you.
Okay now.
All right. Then. You take care. Bye-bye.